Check 1, 2. Check mic 1. Check. Check podium. Check podium. Mic 2. Test mic 2. Check mic 3. Check mic 4. Check mic 5. Check mic 6. Check wireless. Check mic 7. Check mic 8. Check mic 9. Check mic 10. Check mic 11. Check mic 12. Check second wireless.
All right, good evening. Let's call the meeting to order with a salute to the flag. All right, good evening, everybody, and sorry for the late start. We did have a short exec session prior to the meeting for personnel matters. Dr. Stage is still working that out back, so we may have to break again in the middle of the meeting for another exec session on personnel. So we will let you know if we have to do that. So we'll start this evening with the approval of the minutes from the July 23rd regular session meeting minutes, and this will be via unanimous consent. Any questions or input from the board on those meeting minutes? Okay, Christine, approved. Next, we'll go to superintendent's items and reports. We will come back to item A when Dr. Stage comes back out. So we'll move on to we'll move on to the next few. So we have nobody for Blast. We'll go to Career Center. Mrs. Cooper?
Yep. We had our first meeting last Thursday to start the new school year. On the same evening as our meeting, we had graduation for the adult nursing program, and they passed and graduated 34 of 34, which is pretty amazing. We are in our final year of bonds, which means the districts will notice the savings this year of $715,000. And we've also, at the NTCC, been given another grant for $158,000 from state subsidies. With that was proposed by Gary Martell to add a second cosmetology instructor. And this will open up more seats for cosmetology. Cosmetology is one of the two programs that are 3 years instead of 2, and all of the programs have a wait list. So this will open up more seats for that, which is fantastic. And then the Athens fire companies, both borough and township, I do believe. There's a fire training facility at the Career Center that they use on weekends, and they're asking if they can build a pavilion there for weekends, which then the students can use all during the week. So that's another win-win. And that might be all the good news I have. Let me just make sure. Yep, so that's all. They're ready to start the students coming in this year. Everything's full and ready to go.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. PSBA, Mrs. Minnick, anything to report?
Can we do that, Representative?
Yeah, we can do that if you'd like.
So we do have representative from PSPA with us tonight. If you just want to step up. It wasn't me.
Thank you very much for that recognition. All right, once Dr. Stage gets back to his seat, we'll go back to, I guess, Kathy Jo, anything else on PSBA? I'm sorry.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, so Dr. Stage, we'll go back to you for any superintendent items and reports.
Sorry, I was just balancing my checkbook. It didn't take that long, did it? Good evening, everyone. Just a quick report. Want to give a big shout out to all the people that make our district look absolutely amazing. We walked in yesterday, we welcomed all of our staff back for the first day. Buildings are shiny, clean, welcoming. It's tremendous. So custodians, support staff, secretaries, it's incredible the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes to make things happen. And a big thank you to Mrs. Rhodes. We have an in-service schedule that's 4 days long. And it's filled with a lot of really great stuff, and it's really going to help set a foundation for us to really start to dig deeper into what we do and how we can do it better. So thank you to her. A big thank you to Mrs. Shores. She's here today, always, as our business manager. I was wondering what she was doing. I looked up and I'm like, oh, I'm real important tonight. Jenny has an interesting job as the business manager. Sometimes, you know, it's not just the money. She is out and about making contact with everyone and also helping the first days of the school year go really, really well. And she doesn't even recognize what she does, so I want to make sure she's recognized as well. So I want to thank them, and thank you to our teachers. It was a great start yesterday. So looking forward to students coming on Monday, and a big thank you. So now we can clap. Thank you very much. Sorry. One more piece of information. Sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to be long-winded, but I will.
No worries.
So we have really talked a lot this year about a couple things. Understanding our why. Why are we Wildcats and why are we doing what we do? You're going to hear a lot about that as we move into this school year. It might not be on our social media every day, but we are really trying to redefine our why collectively across the district. And one thing that I do want to point out that has made probably some buzz among Facebookers is I guess, a rededication to the cell phone rules. I don't want to call it a policy. It's always been in our handbook. We're just creating a focus on it. And part of that is one of our administrators kind of phrased it as a disconnect to reconnect. So obviously in a school district, our role is to educate and provide opportunities for learning. Phones can be a huge distraction of that. I'll be the first one to admit that there was a mistake made 8-9 years ago. I thought phones could be a learning tool. Now they are a true distraction. Even as adults, and everybody in this room understands how much a smartphone can be a help or a hindrance to your day-to-day activities. Every now and then my wrist bops me and I forget my train of thought. Along with it being a distraction to what we are trying to do and is learn, it's also a huge detriment to the developing mind in terms of their mental health and social stability. So I'm going to make this very clear. As we focus on disconnecting to reconnect, and that's reconnecting with each other and with our learning, we would love a partnership with parents to understand the value of managing and monitoring device usage of their children. It's for their health, not just for a way to distract you and them from interacting. So there's a lot to that we're learning now with a lot of data. And we are one of many school districts that are starting to address this, and not just regionally, but throughout probably the entire nation. So with that, I'm looking forward to a great start. Go Wildcats.
Thank you, Dr. Stage. So next we'll move to solicitor's items. Mr. Barrett?
To continue my report from last week, Mr. Stage has had me working on several personnel matters. They started 8 o'clock here in this building this morning, and as soon as we have any follow-up to them or finishing with them, we'll let you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to request another brief executive session before we get into the voting items for personnel.
should switch off.
Okay, we are back from exec session. We're going to get rolling now with the rest of the agenda. So we're going to pick up with visitor comments on board action items. So do we have any visitor comments on board action items? Okay. So next we'll move to financial business. Do we have a motion and a second to bring financial business to the table for
So
vote and
moved.
discussion?
Second.
All right. Thank you. So we have our normal listing of bills, general fund checks, cafeteria bills, secretary and treasurer report, and our earned income tax report. Any questions, conversation from the board on those items? Okay, Christine, vote please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Tarasnowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, personnel items. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So we have several personnel items this month. We have a resignation, a professional resignation, a few support resignations, some professional contracts, support contracts, non-bargaining contracts, resignation, and a few athletic items. Any questions, comments on any of the personnel items this evening? Or Dr. Stage, anything you would like to add?
Just to add that we're still not fully staffed. We still have several support staff positions to fill. We're trying to fill those, and we're still looking for an elementary school counselor, although we were notified today by PDE that we can do emergency certification temporarily for that if we find someone with similar qualifications. So we just got that notification today. So we'll work on that, hopefully have someone by the September board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, Christina, vote please.
Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Tarasnowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, next we'll move to contracts and agreements. Do we have a motion and a second?
I make a motion.
Second.
So before you guys go into the voting, we are fortunate enough to have some of the people you just hired here tonight. So let me make sure I get everybody that's here. I see Cherie Hunt. It's been a long time. How you doing, Cherie? Wave so everybody can see you in the back. Lindsay Coleman is here. We hired Lindsay tonight. Kim Roppers is here. Hi, Kim. And Nicole Campbell. How are you? So thank you. Welcome aboard. Wow, that's a nice applause. Good for you guys. Good for you guys.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we'll go on to contracts and agreements. I'm sorry, did we have a motion and a second? Did we have
Oh,
a
second. I said second. Thank you.
All right, so we have three contracts, ESS Northeast, the ESI Employee Assistant Group, and the Team Tutor Agreement. I know we discussed these at the working session last week. Dr. Stage, anything to add on any of these?
No, I think I explained them all last time. Nothing's changed.
Any questions from the board? Okay, vote Christine.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Tarasnowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
And Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
Okay, next we have policies. Do we have a motion and a second for policies?
So moved.
Second. Okay, so several items here, A through M, that the committee outbriefed us on last week. Several of these are first read, some were switched to second read based on recommendation last week. Anything that anyone wants to add or any questions on the policies for tonight? Okay, Christine, for a vote, please.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Charles-Nowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
And Mr. Owen?
Yes. Okay, we have nothing tonight for curriculum and instruction, so we'll move on to transportation. Do we have a motion and a second for transportation?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Owen, I need to abstain from 10C.
10C. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You want that pulled for a separate vote then, or?
Do you want a separate vote?
You want, we'll vote separately on that one?
Yeah.
So we'll vote
We
on A
can,
and B
please.
together, and then we'll
Yes.
vote on C. Yep.
So I just have a follow-up. Jenny did send me the figures that I asked about the fuel reimbursement costs that we were supplying for the contractors.
Yes.
So my question is, what is the amount of money that we have to get a bid out for if we're buying something? Is there a certain amount, like if we're buying a product or a service, do we have to get a bid?
So to go out for 3 qualified bids, unless they're part of KPN or CoStars, I think the minimum amount is $5,000 or $12,500, depending on the item or product.
So would it be, could we ask for bids for those fuel cards, as Mr. Johnson was brought up last week?
So fuel cards are just, it saves them on tax. So they purchase the fuel tax.
You got to go to the mic. People online can't.
No.
I can. I just thought you were doing a good job. So go to the microphone.
So when they use the fuel card from the Dandy, it just saves them on taxes. So they purchase the fuel, they pay us right back the following month. So it's not really a bid of like we're getting a better price or on anything. It's just saving taxes because we're tax exempt and they are not.
But we're still paying,
That was a different situation when gas and diesel went so high.
Right.
We just agreed to meet them halfway with that. So now that diesel, I guess I don't know, is diesel back
so
up
that
to
won't be in the
$3?
contract
It's
this
around
upcoming.
$4 a gallon.
But after taxes, the tax rebate, Linda said it was under 3. So then that, our part doesn't kick in anymore. They pay 100%.
And so to Jason's comment about buying gas, gas futures, fuel futures, right, that's the correct term, fuel. You know, I think the situation we have to do is we have to work with probably a large, get a consortium of contractors together and work with them and help them develop a consortium where they can do that. And we're planning on doing that in September.
Yeah, I think my addition to that would be whether we are paying them or not, in the end game, we are paying because we do pay them a contract every year for their ability to transport our students, which also brings in the fuel cost as well. When they come with a new contract price, do they not raise that contract price up if the fuel costs are higher? Or maintenance fees or anything else that happens, it's the maintenance cost and running of the transportation. It's maintenance cost of the contractual
Yeah.
of the buses.
But isn't it contractual based, are their numbers based on the state formula
The
that we
state
pay them?
formula factors in age of the vehicle, anticipated maintenance and repair.
Maintenance and repair is also
Loaded and
fuel.
unloaded miles are a big one. The formula, you basically, I think, does kind of anticipate some of that stuff, but it doesn't outline it specifically. And so we pay state formula, or have we changed? We've not changed. We pay state formula, correct? Plus or minus.
Yeah, I'd have to look for sure.
I know some school districts that pay above state formula so they can keep bus contractors.
I think we did the meeting in the middle with the fuel prices.
Right. I think
Instead
our
of paying
alternative was
above.
offsetting the cost by saying that we will subsidize the cost of fuel if it's over $3.
I think that the fuel cost, I don't want to dig into this too deep, but the fuel cost is per mile. That does come into a per mile equation when you're charging per mile, if they put in the cost, because that is part of your cost per mile numbers when they're putting out, whether it's deadhead mileage or not. We don't pay deadhead. I believe we pay the same fee whether they're going to get to student or not, correct?
I think it's a different amount, loaded versus unloaded.
It sounds like it's a good point to explore, Jason, but, I mean, would we also be able to get the fuel, like, go that out for bid when we don't
We
we
can't,
don't
right?
get the
It would
fuel,
have
it's
to be
the
the contractor.
contractors.
Right. I'm just thinking, you're exactly right. So I'm just thinking that the total cost that they charge us for a fee, the fees that we see that they're charging us per bus run, that fuel plays a part in that fee. So whether it's $300 and some dollars a day for a bus ride or a bus run, it's a difference between a van or a school bus. That does pay into the factor of what that costs per mile.
So I think what I'm trying to understand is if we can negotiate that fee down, then we would pay less.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to look at. That would also help the contractor, it would also help us as well, by bringing that fee down.
So us buying gas futures, I think, is different because we don't own any buses.
Right.
So our situation is a little different where we have to work and help get the bus contractors in the area. Now, we have 4 or 5 bus contractors that we work with, but I think when we talk about volume, we would have to see if we could get other school districts' bus contractors to work collaboratively, maybe within a county system, to do that.
I just think that
in
next
terms of
year, go
the
ahead.
formula for what we charge in our rate, let me look into what that formula is.
This isn't something that we can do as of right now, but this may be something for next
Yeah.
year's
Yeah, the
contract that
contract
we
comes
can
up.
look into for next year to help both of us out.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been a long time since we've dug into that. I think 2016, 2017 was the last time we went deep into transportation as we brought in STS, I think, was one of the companies we brought in.
PTSI.
Yeah, and to do an audit. And the other thing is sometimes the state formula changes, and so we just use the formula. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on transportation items? Yep, so Christine, we'll go to a vote first on A and B, please.
Mrs. Smrek?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Christie?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
And Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Okay, so then next we'll go for a vote on 10C, please.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Christie?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I abstain.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
Yes.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
And Mrs. Smrek?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We have nothing for building and grounds. So do we have a motion and a second to bring section 12 other up for discussion and vote?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so within this section, we have 3 items. I'm going to ask that we vote on these 3 individually. So the first is board meeting dates calendar. The second is the merger feasibility resolution between Athens and SARE, and the third is a shared services resolution between Athens and SARE. I'm going to start the conversation first with just sharing some of my own thoughts and also helping to clarify for the board and the public what we are voting on tonight for B and C, for the merger feasibility and the shared services resolutions. So just to share some of my thoughts first, I think that we're all aware, for those of us who have been around this community for a while, we know that there's been chatter for quite a long time about the potential merger between Athens and SARE. And I'd like to say that, as a member of this board, I'm proud of the work that the 2 boards have done over the past couple years to actually take some action on that past chatter. I would argue it's probably the first time in history that we've actually got this far working collaboratively across those 2 boards. It's probably the largest collaborative effort we've seen of this magnitude across the 2 boards. So I think it's a great first step. I also realize that the merger feasibility study probably left many of us with more unanswered questions than answered questions. And I think there are some legitimate concerns that do come about when it comes to costs and impact to our taxpayers based on what we saw in that initial study. But I also believe that's why we owe it to the students and the taxpayers of our entire Valley community to continue some level of further information gathering, analysis, and assessment so we can really be fully informed on what the best future state public school system looks like for this Valley community. So over the last couple of years, right, I would often get asked, as I'm sure other members of this board were asked as well, you know, why is Athens looking at this merger? What's in it for Athens, right? What value will Athens get from a merger? And I realize, right, it's my job as a member of this board to represent the students and taxpayers of the Athens Area School District. But I think it's bigger than that. The fact of the matter is, right, when I leave here tonight, when we all leave here tonight, when our students leave school at the end of the day, and when our taxpayers, right, when they go out to dinner or out grocery shopping, right, they're members of a larger community, right, of the Valley community, right? They're not just members of the Athens School District. So rather than thinking about what's in it for Athens, here's how I tend to think about this. How can we ensure that all students in this Valley community are getting the best possible and equal opportunities, whether it be educational, extracurricular, or so on? How can we ensure that our Valley public school system is a source of pride within this community that enables our community to grow? And how can we ensure that our taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck, whether it be through the diverse curriculum offered to our students, improved student achievement, and so on? So yes, I do understand we need to think about what's in it for Athens, but I would argue we also need to think broader and what's in it for this entire Valley community. So with that, I want to go further and just to clarify what is on the agenda tonight for items B and C. So item B is the merger feasibility resolution. So what we are voting on here is whether or not this board has interest in continuing the further exploration of a merger between Athens and Sayre. So to be clear, a yes vote on this resolution is not a yes vote for a merger. A yes vote on this resolution is a vote that says, yes, we should continue further assessment, gather data, analyze data, so on, to support a future well-informed vote on the merger. On the other hand, a no vote for this is in effect saying, no, we should kill the merger, we should not continue with any further assessment on the merger. So that's clarification on what we're voting on and for resolution B, the merger feasibility resolution. The second resolution that's on the table for tonight, listed on the agenda as the shared services resolution. This is ultimately to assess if there's interest to implement, if deemed mutually beneficial, any near-term partnership, collaboration, resource sharing opportunities between the Athens and Sayre school districts. Now, this would be in addition to any partnerships we have today, right? As we know, we partner across athletic programs and other areas today. So in effect, a yes vote on this resolution means that we're committed to a strategic assessment of partnership opportunities between the school districts with the intent to offer equitable opportunities for all students across both districts in this Valley community. A no vote basically means we'll continue as we are today, right? With more tactical, ad hoc, reactive approach to partnerships between the districts, which is basically what we're already doing. Also want to clarify that a no vote will not impact anything that we are currently doing today, right? So will not impact any existing partnerships such as those athletic programs. So with that, I'll leave my comments there and we'll open it up to the rest of the board for any additional comments or questions or clarifications on what we're voting on with those two resolutions.
I wanted to add a little bit to our discussion last week. Thought about it a lot this week. And I very much agree with I agree with all my members on their decisions to make their decision. But I don't think that we should ever close the door to talking. Looks as though our neighbors decided that they don't want to, and that's okay. But I think we should always have the door open. It's fluid. I serve the constituents of this valley. At some time, redistricting could happen, and people who have a parcel in Sayre could then be in Athens. There's many variables that occur. I also very much agree with what was proposed to us, and the fiscal nature of it is not proper for me to put that on the taxpayers' shoulders. So I think there's more that we can learn from it, and I don't believe we did full due diligence with both boards discussing what was in the 500 and almost 600 pages that we liked or didn't like. We didn't get to that level of discussion to truly dig in and see what is in there between the two boards. But I do believe that through the money that we spent and the data that we've collected, there is highlights in there that we can help to make Athens better. And we will use it for data points, and we will use it for knowledge to make our district better. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any additional feedback from the board?
Yeah, I have, I mean, you know, specifically with resolution B, I guess, on the merger feasibility. You know, as Cindy said, and which I agree, and as you said as well, President, is that we should always be open for explorations, discussions, especially what we've gone through. I mean, this was not a yes to merge. If it was a vote yes to merge right now, from the information we have, I'd vote no. But that's not what it is. It's a vote to further explore that and discuss that. The pause I have, though, is, you know, last night the joining part of this, the other school district voted no to not move forward with any even discussions of that, which is, you know, to me hard to understand when you're on a school board to not think that you're going to discuss things, even if you don't want to discuss them or explore them. There's many things that we bring up that I would rather, you know, if I had the choice, I could X off those and not have to discuss those. But, you know, that's why I'm here, is to be open to those and different ideas and to explore different situations and opportunities, especially if they're looking at benefiting the districts, the communities, and our students. Where I pause, though, is because of the effects of what we're doing. You know, you're having a resolution that's, you know, saying yes to further explore, certainly. But that means you have two parties that have to be part of that. I think we're going to just do that unilaterally. You're also directing the superintendent to do certain things within the resolution. So as the resolution sits right now, I think we would need to amend terms within that resolution because you're directing, like in number 2, the superintendent to collaborate with the SARES superintendent to develop and present an action plan within 90 days. Well, certainly that can't happen if the other school district has voted no. So, you know, that can't even occur. And to commit to providing regular updates. All these things you can't do unilaterally. You need to do that jointly with both districts. You know, so to vote on the resolution, I mean, legal term would be it's moot. I mean, they've already voted no, right? So, but I do understand the nature of wanting to present this, that, you know, here's where we stand, here's where they stand. So we're at least telling the community, here's as a school board member where I stand, a further discussion, right? I mean, I would think maybe the simple modification that could be made to the resolution would be, you know, contingent upon the SARES approval of the same, right? I mean, you know, like, you're not going to have, we're not going to have Craig go forward and to do certain things and to make him provide an action plan when there's no one to even provide that with, right? That doesn't make any sense. So it's hard to, like, as it stands here as a resolution, to just vote for it. I think to vote for or even against it based upon as it is, like, you know, to vote for it, I guess, would be the biggest thing. I think you have to have some amendment to it based upon the language due to the actions that were taken by the SARE school district.
So Mr. Jones, are you recommending just making an update to the resolution as it stands?
We could move
today?
to table it and make a change and.
We
Yeah,
can move,
Okay.
it's on the
Amend it.
agenda, we could amend it tonight, right?
Yep.
So I would make the motion that we amend this would be resolution B. What's that? Well, I think you could, and I don't, you know, my motion would be that you make you amend resolution B, which is the merger feasibility resolution, that you would add a paragraph, number 4, that the approval of this resolution would be contingent upon the approval of a same or similar resolution from the Sayre School District. No.
This is the merger. It's two as well.
We're on A, B, and C here. So B was the merger feasibility resolution. Hopefully somebody wrote that down, because I don't know if I can
So
recite it.
approval of this resolution is contingent upon same or similar resolution passed by the Sayre Area School District.
Yeah, I think there should be a number 4.
Yep.
That would be my motion.
But can it, since they already voted no,
There's-
does this resolution even need to be
They could
voted
vote
on?
again in the future.
Or-
I have a motion on the table. You can
I
discuss my
second.
motion afterwards, and then they're fine.
So we have a motion and a second to add
Thank you.
paragraph 4, which will read, approval of this resolution is contingent upon Sayre, or I'm sorry, is it contingent upon the same or similar resolution being passed by the Sayre Area School District? Yep. Okay, so we're going to take a vote on the amendment as I just read it aloud.
No.
Right, this is the vote for the amendment, not the vote on the resolution. Yeah, we're ready, Christine, whenever you are for voting on the amendment.
Mr. Jones?
I'm first? Yes.
You are.
He said yes.
I'm sorry.
I said yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
No.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Teresnowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
No.
And Mr. Johnson?
No.
So with that, we now have an updated version for B. Is there any other question, conversation, inputs on 12A, B, or C before we vote on those resolutions?
So we're going to separate A, though.
A, we're going to do 3. We're going to
Okay.
do 3 separate votes. Yeah.
So the shared services resolution, that's basically what we're doing now.
No, we
It's-
haven't voted on A or B or C.
We haven't voted on any of them yet, Kathy Jo. That was just to amend
The
it.
resolution, the way it's written.
The way, when you say what you say, as far as how we partner with Sarah,
Yes.
right? The nuance of this is commitment to a more strategic partnership rather than the one-off where we feel like there's just a, in the moment, right? There's one meeting, one day the other. This is more so we will get districts to sit down for a more strategic partnership.
So just so we're aware, we've tried that in the past.
Understood?
Okay.
In the language of that, it says if deemed mutually beneficial.
Correct.
So we would have to determine at a later date, this is also not approving any of those
Correct.
services or any of those agreements.
Yep.
It would have to be deemed by us as a board and by them as a board as a mutual beneficial action.
Yep.
So we would have to benefit, like if it was a cost savings for secretarial duties or a cost savings for copy paper.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Or
actually,
not, and make that
right,
decision.
mutually, it's if deemed mutually beneficial, meaning that both sides would have to agree to the benefit before any partnership is pursued. Any more questions? Happy to go.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Anything else from the board on A, B, or C? Okay, Christine, we can go for a vote first on 12A. So this is voting on the board meeting dates calendar for September 24 through August 25.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
No.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
And Mr. Teresnowski?
Yes.
Okay, next we'll go for a vote on B, the merger feasibility resolution as amended with adding section 4 as we previously approved. So for the vote on B, merger feasibility resolution?
Mr. Frisbee?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
No.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
No.
Mr. Tarasnowski?
No.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, so next we will go to,
5 noes,
4 yes.
4 yes.
Correct.
All right, so next we will then move on to 12C, the shared services resolution, as written.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick?
No.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Rude?
Yes.
Mrs. Smart?
Yes.
Mr. Tarasnowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee?
No. Okay. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of section 12. We will move now on to visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments? Okay, so next we have a few board communication items. I believe all the same items that were on the agenda from last week's working session. Looks like we do have the addition of a thank you letter from Representative Pickett. On to section 15, future meetings. So our next regular our next regular session will be Tuesday, September 10th, right back here in the admin office. Correct. Okay. We have no need for any further executive sessions tonight. But we need it earlier, right? So do we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.